Greetings. This is a screencast about the APA writing style requirements. You should know, if you don't already, that you should be using the APA writing style for all papers in the Newman University Graduate Education Program courses, and this of course includes this course. So this is going to be a little reminder or a little introduction to that process so that you know what we're talking about. And as a reference document, you should have access to the Newman University Graduate Program Expectations. It's a very brief document, about 2 or 3 pages long, that's been provided, and it is based on the primary source document of the publication manual of the APA, that's American Psychological Association, the 6th edition. Now, the APA publication manual is the Bible for publication techniques, procedures, rules, and regulations when you're doing research-related reporting. So it's important to know what it is, and you have a handy guide in the course materials here, and some of you may have it from previous courses. These are the topics that are covered under this guide, and you'll see there are 7 areas covered, ranging all the way from page format to references. I will be honest with you, some of them are going to be more important to me than others, and I'll lead you directly so that you'll not have any mistaking. I'm really most concerned about the issue of citations and references. Mechanics are important, makes it very readable. If you make an error in the page format, you'll probably get a general nudge requirement asking you to do it over unless you continue to do it, and it's a continuing problem. If you neglect to do your responsibilities for in-text citations, providing references for things that you're documenting or using as citations for your work, you will get more than that, because I need that information in order to look at your work. What's the rationale? Well, there are 4 rationales that I can think of pretty quickly, and I've underlined the 2 that are most important to me. Obviously, consistency improves communication, so when we have an agreed upon style, it takes some of the nuances out of the picture, so the idea of "I thought you meant" rather than "what you said" becomes less of a problem because we're using a common format. I'm most concerned about the idea in our society and in the area that you're working in, we're most concerned about the idea of protecting intellectual rights. When somebody comes up with an idea, somebody publishes it, we owe it to that person to give credit for that work and to make sure that we are correctly giving credit to it when we're using their work as a part of our work. So if I invent an idea, have a new idea, have a research plan, doesn't mean you can't make reference to my work, but you need to give me credit for the use you're making it. And this goes back to the idea of transparency of sources. So if you're very transparent about telling what your sources are, in other words, transparency means I can trace it back to the beginning. You're not keeping anything hidden from me. So the best way to do that is making sure that you give lots of good credit and references and citations. And this all goes to the idea that as a basis of research credibility, you have to have integrity in the process. So integrity in the process simply means that I am not going to be able to tell your bias by virtue of your research methodology. And you should have a firewall between any ideas you have in bias and the research methodology that you're using to collect those ideas. So a little bit of rationale there. Compare the 2 guides. This is a brief moment, because some of you may think, if you think that you know everything there is to know by looking at the 2 or 3 page document you're getting here, guess again. Our guidelines we're using for this program are based on a 400+ page document that is very carefully referenced and is provided by the American Psychological Association. It is the source guide for publications. It has lots of multiple cross-references, detailed examples and illustrations. It's very important to think about this, and you may want to take a look at that, and there are copies available. Matter of fact, if you are going to be doing some writing and you may want to actually look at that as a source guide, It's not a very expensive publication. I've required it for research courses in the past, and it cost less than $30 to buy the guide, so it's not exactly a prohibitive from that process. And there are copies in many reference libraries available for your use. Here would be an example of something that you can't get in the short version we're going to provide you with and the long sail version. There are lots of examples and illustrations of the correct way to write things. Making sure that you are writing a style that removes bias from your comments. So bias, if it appears in a research article, means that somebody is probably not doing a good job of protecting the integrity of the research process. So there is a reason why you might want to look at the original guide. I want to make sure you know what you're looking for. Here are some examples of things that I'm going to emphasize. And for example, I've got a couple of brief slides here that I'm going to show you that you can easily get and review. Talk about general formats. Here would cover some of your options that you have. You're going to be looking for many things that are engaged in periodicals. You're going to find some publications that are independent, standalone documents, monographs that are not periodical in nature, but they're certainly not at the length of a book. You're going to find some things that are listed as chapters in a book that you're going to be referencing. There are guidelines that are separate for each of those. Then the important thing to keep in mind is that if you're getting those publications from an online source, even though they may not have originally been produced on an online source, there are some different rules and regulations that you need to follow in order to do that. Rather than go through each of these examples, let me cut to the chase and give you an example of something I want you to take a look at here. So let's go down here. Here would be, this is an example of something that many of you will be doing. You're going to be looking for research articles, and you're going to find them on an online source. And you're going to find out that the reference that you find and you're searching, doing online searching, was really something that was originally printed as part of a periodical, a journal of some kind, a professional area here. So there's a separate set of guidelines. Now the first part's pretty obvious here. You identify the authors, you identify the date, you give the title exactly as provided, you give the title of the periodical exactly as provided, you provide the guides to the periodical in terms of when it was published, so that may be dates, or in some cases it may be a volume or an edition number. They will be listed differently. You follow the guideline for whatever is on the cover of that document, and you probably won't go wrong. But here's the kicker. When you're providing that as a reference to me in the course, then you need to add the fact that you retrieve this from an online source. You need to tell me when you retrieved it, and then you need to give the source address. So that would be a really critical item that you need to do. Remember that part, that's really critical at the end of the process. Same thing is obviously going to be true if you're doing any kind of an online document, a particular document that might be separate from that. So let me give you an example here. I have in my hand a document that I'm very fond of and that I got from the internet, and it's a document called Hostile Hallways. It was a publication by the American Association of University Women. It was the document, the research study that awakened us to the concerns about bullying and teasing and sexual harassment in schools. It's a tremendous source document, but it's not a periodical. So in this case, and also it's a little bit complex because there isn't an author identified. So in this particular case, what do you have to work with? Well, you have the name of the publication, Hostile Hallways. You have a publication date. It's going to be provided in the document that's provided when it was first made available. You have an organization, American Association of University Women, Educational Foundation. And then, but this is going to be the thing that's going to really help us out, then you're going to be able to say, I retrieved this on this date of this month and this year from this source. And the source is going to be listing something that's going to be an internet address. So if you're providing that, that's probably going to take care of your processes there. It's important to provide that information. Now a couple of examples here. These are from works in the past. You're not going to be examples. Here was an example of somebody that sent me an article. They gave me the title. The reference form, APA reference, was not used. It's not complete, but there was enough information there for me to find it. So I Googled it and I found it. And the article, because they gave the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics and the name of the article and the author, it was pretty easy to find, so that wasn't a real problem. I found this one, but I was lucky, and I was lucky because I found out there were multiple publications that are with very similar sounding punchlines. So that's the reason I was lucky on that one. But again, didn't use the APA guidelines. If the person had used the APA guidelines and had provided the address at the bottom, rather than just telling me that the person got it from the West Virginia University Press, I wouldn't have had that problem. Finally, here's one. The person gave me an article. It was something that was provided, but the address at the bottom just wasn't sufficient. Again, I got an address. Jumpstart's an organization. It's not the name of a publication. Now, I suspect that this person would have, that Jumpstart was just the first part of the address. So after jumpstart.organization, after the slash, there was probably a much more complete address. So you're not going to create that problem. So, in short, I've given you a little bit of an overview. You need to use the writing, easy for you to say, the writing style requirements in your papers. I've identified the headings there, and I've very clearly said that when you're going to do this, I'm most concerned about the issues that have to do with citations and references. Those are the main currents, because I want to use this to make sure that when you give me the publication, that it's transparent in terms of sources, and that we're making sure we're giving full credit to the work of others so we can continue to build on the people that got great ideas, just as you're going to demonstrate when you're doing your research projects. Thank you very much for your attention.